So thank you so much for joining us today. Sometimes you have to let go in order to grow. When you're on the playground, you might play with a certain group of children and you learn certain things from them. Maybe one of the children will bite another child. Then they know that person might not be the best child to play with. And we learn these lessons throughout our lifetime. You learn that not to play with fire because you're going to be burned. But sometimes when you're in a relationship with a person and you realize that you do not share certain things in common, and maybe this person isn't the greatest of fit. I remember years ago dating this guy who had children, and for some reason he had a problem trying to acknowledge how many children he actually had. And then I saw his connection with the different women. And I saw that he was basically setting up house with these different women. Meaning if one didn't work out, he would go back to the next one. In his stories, this is what he would say. And it's not hard for you to look at a person's story or observe their actions and some of the things that they say to let you make those necessary connections and dots, connecting those dots and realizing that this person isn't for you. And more importantly, when he would hang around his guy friends, his behavior would change dramatically from when it was just the two of us. Some of the things he'd say would be compromised, or should I say conflicting, when he was around his so-called boys. But the one thing that stood out the most is the connection that he had with his boys. It was unlike any guy I've ever met. And this is another reason why I really appreciated reading Lynnharris's books. Lynnharris's books taught you about the down low before it became a popular thing. Lynnharris helped me to understand the relationships that men can have with men and women can have with women, and how it's not much differently in the way that they feel towards that person as it would be an opposite sex person. I myself had to look at these things and observe them through the standpoint of reading. And then certain things would be sparked by me observing this guy, which let me believe and allowed me to really see that this guy would go both ways. But his loyalty was to men, and he had a hatred for women. Part of that you would see, even though he would say the opposite in speaking of his mother, you could tell in the energy. See, a person could speak one way, but their energy tell you something else. I also had a female friend who liked women, who basically she went both ways. But a lot of things that she would say, you could tell in the energy when things were right and when things were not working in a more favorable way. Sometimes when we are brought up, we observe our parents, and our parents might say, go by the person's word. But you got to go beyond just words, honey, when you're getting to know a person. You see, I also let God lead me. And sometimes I'll stay at the party longer to observe and to learn from the person. And sometimes when you do this, you learn a harder lesson. And this is why I had to learn that perhaps when you start feeling certain things, when you start sensing certain things, that you need to step in the opposite direction. You see, each lesson leads you to another blessing, but you don't have to stay too long in order to learn that lesson. I remember the same guy that I just spoke of. I was trying to leave him, and I noticed certain things that would not. It was almost like a certain energy that stayed with me for the longest period of time. I had to treat that relationship like dogs chasing you. When dogs are chasing you, you don't think about it, you just run. And when I left, the energy seemed to be cleaner. I was able to breathe differently. I was able to understand things differently. sometimes you don't realize. Like, I remember one of my girlfriends said she was dating a warlock and she saw the different signs. But at first she didn't see the signs. She saw the signs way later, after being totally engrossed in a relationship. And by being totally engrossed in a relationship, she was already been intimate with this person. And they did certain things, certain dark arts while she was asleep, as well as otherwise. Sometimes we don't pick up on the signs, but you have to be able to pick up on the different signs. And I know it might sound like I'm really moving in a different direction, but it's important that you realize that, because a lot of these young girls are dating these guys and they just meet up, hook up, and find that they cannot lose. All of their energy is gone. And they don't understand why their energy is lost. They don't understand why it is that they're not able to have the same spiel on things. Their work ethics, everything is changing. It's because a lot of energy is being pulled from them. This is why you have to pray to God. You have to ask for direction, Ask for direction in this relationship. Ask if this is the right person for you. Because when I asked that question, and I got the answers, I couldn't even believe some of the answers that I received about this person, which confirmed the fact that I needed to leave immediately, Sometimes we don't always understand what it is that God's teaching. But the energy, the observation says so much more. And although it might seem ridiculous at times, it might seem even weird or even crazy, just like somebody has been messing with my content. It's been taking longer periods of time. I'll download something and it'll take a whole day to download sometimes. But it's okay, because like I said, God is directing. And when God is directing the traffic, when a person puts things out there, or let's say they do something wrong, the wrong comes right back to them. I once told you one of my girlfriends, her mother was reprimanding her and speaking very low towards her, cursing her out. And when she went to spit outside the window, the spit came right back into her face. That was God's way of saying, listen, stop it. Watch your tone. Watch what it is that you're saying to this person. Everyone deserves respect. But we all learn in different ways. Her mother became very silent after that. The conversation was stopped. She continued to drive, and she drove right home, because she realized that her spirit wasn't right to go out into the world and interact, because she was so upset with her daughter. There are going to be times where we're not exactly the best people that we can actually be. That is a time where we should stay home, where we don't decide to go out and share some of that anger or those feelings towards other people. Because when we do that, we are catering to a more corrupt experience. And we're not exactly putting out the good that we would want to receive. So in order for us to make a better world, we have to watch what it is that we're thinking, what it is that we're doing. That's most important, because, people don't realize that if all of us were thinking on a higher frequency, if all of us were in a good space, we would even affect our weather in a good way. Because remember, we're all affected by each other. Weather is nature. We are connected to nature. So if we keep all that in mind, we will be more mindful and conscious of what it is that we put out, what it is we say, and what it is that we do. And even if a person is a warlock or on a dark frequency, you'll pick it up a lot easier, a lot quicker, and you will choose to be around more conscious people. People who are going to give you the light that they share. People who are going to enjoy being in your presence and not shunning you away. People who are going to appreciate, love you as they love themselves. And people who are going to be at peace. And let us keep that in mind, because peace is a serious thing that we all want to have. We all want to have peace, and we all want to share peace. And we all want to be enlightened by the beauty that God shares. Thank you so much for joining us. Have a wonderful one. Indigo Moon.